From Vecna's total victory to 11 fading into nothing, here are all the possible endings in Stranger Things Season 5 you never saw coming. Let's start with the ending nobody saw coming, the one where the final battle isn't won with power, but with something way more devastating, a choice. Imagine Vecna isn't defeated by 11 blasting him into oblivion, but by Henry Creel himself deciding to undo everything he created. And this happens because 11 and Will don't fight him. They enter his mind and break him down psychologically by showing him the one truth he's been running from his entire life. 11 reveals that Henry wasn't born evil. He was a lonely, traumatized kid whose abilities were exploited by the Mind Flayer, and the Upside Down isn't some perfect new world he built. It's just his unhealed trauma given form, and it's been eating him alive this whole time. Then Will, who knows what it's like to feel broken and isolated, reaches the last piece of Henry's humanity and shows him that real power comes from connection and love, not hatred and control. And even if Henry can't save himself, he can still save Max and everyone else he destroyed. That's when Henry Creel makes the choice that changes everything. He decides to destroy the monster he became. His first act of redemption is pulling Max's consciousness out of his mental prison and fully restoring her, which proves he's serious, and then he does something insane. He absorbs the entire Mind Flayer and all the darkness of the Upside Down back into himself and destroys it from the inside by sacrificing his immortality and his power. As he collapses, the Upside Down unravels with him, the gates seal forever, and the dimension just ceases to exist. But here's the kicker. Vecna dies, but Henry Creel survives as a powerless, broken shell of a man who has to face human justice for everything he did. And 11 is free, but she's haunted knowing she saved the villain by giving him redemption. And that's how it ends. Not with a bang, but with a broken man choosing to be human again. The next probably ending would have to be the most frustrating cop-out ending imaginable. But hear me out, because there's a version of this that could actually work, and it's dark as hell. Imagine the entire series, the Upside Down, Vecna, 11's powers, all of it gets revealed to be an elaborate shared delusion orchestrated by the original 4 boys Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will through one massive ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign that spiraled completely out of control. The final scene shows the now adult characters gathered around a table in the present day playing D&D one last time, and they're laughing and reminiscing about their wild, traumatic campaign from when they were kids, and at first you think, okay, so they just imagined everything, and none of it was real, which would be the worst ending ever. But then the twist hits, and it's way darker than that. Their collective imagination was so powerful that it actually bled into reality. Or maybe they're using the game now as adults to process unresolved childhood trauma by pretending it was all fantasy when something real and horrible actually happened to them. The real villain wasn't some interdimensional monster, it was the trauma itself, and the characters are still in denial, still using D&D as a coping mechanism to rewrite their memories into something they can understand and survive. Maybe Will really did go missing, and something terrible happened to him, and the boys created this entire mythology around the Upside Down and monsters to make sense of the senseless, and maybe 11 represents the part of them that wanted to fight back and have power when they felt powerless, and every monster they faced was just another manifestation of their fear and guilt. This ending would suggest that the kids never really escaped Hawkins or their trauma. They just kept replaying it over and over through the game, trying to find a version where they win and everyone survives, and the series ends with them still sitting at that table, unable to let go, because the game is the only place where they have control, and that ambiguity between what was real and what was imagined is what makes this ending so unsettling, because it turns the entire show into a question mark and forces you to rewatch everything, wondering what actually happened to these kids. Another ending that would absolutely destroy us is if the show went full brutal horror and gave us the darkest, most soul-crushing finale imaginable. Since we're talking about brutal endings, here's how brutal it could actually get, and trust me, this one leaves no survivors and no hope whatsoever. Vecna possesses Will without anyone knowing, and this happens early in Season 5, so Will spends the entire season quietly picking off the main characters one by one like some twisted 80s slasher movie. It starts with Jonathan and Joyce, which already breaks your heart because Will is killing his own family, but nobody realizes it's him doing it because Vecna is controlling everything from inside and making it look like accidents or upside down attacks. One by one, the group gets smaller and the paranoia grows, and by the final episode, only Will, Mike, and 11 are left standing, and all of Hawkins has been completely consumed by the Upside Down. That's when 11 finally figures it out. She realizes Will is possessed, and she knows the only way to kill Vecna is to kill Will. And this realization destroys her, because Will is family. He's one of the original kids who started this whole journey, and she has to make an impossible choice. She's struggling to find the courage and strength to do it, and Mike, who's desperate to save the world, encourages her to kill Will even though it's tearing him apart too. 11 is crying and heartbroken, but she does it. She kills Will, and the moment he dies, the scene brightens, and the surroundings start coming back to life, and you think, okay, maybe this is it, maybe they won, even though the cost was unbearable. Mike embraces Eleven in a hug, trying to comfort her while she's sobbing, and then he whispers in her ear that he's Vecna and stabs her in the back. She dies with her eyes wide open, showing pure despair and betrayal on her face because the person she loved most in the world just murdered her and it wasn't even really him. Vecna then returns Mike to normal, just long enough for him to see the vision of what he did to Elle. Just long enough for the horror and guilt to completely shatter his mind before Vecna kills him Chrissy style, with his bones snapping and his eyes caving in. The final scene is Max waking up from her coma, still blind and crippled, and she's calling out names starting with Lucas, then Steve, then Dustin, and nobody answers because they're all dead. And as the camera pulls back, you see the hospital, and all of Hawkins outside her window have been turned back into the Upside Down, and she's alone and trapped. And that's where the series ends, with Max screaming into the void, realizing everyone she ever loved is gone and the monsters won. That's the brutal ending nobody wants, but would be the most devastating thing the show could possibly do. Next is the bittersweet time reset ending, and this one would save the world but destroy everything the characters built together. The idea is that the gang realizes the only way to completely destroy the Upside Down and end this nightmare forever is to send someone back in time to prevent the first gate from ever opening on November 6, 1983, and that someone is most likely 11 because she's the one with the power to do it. Here's why this could actually happen. If they go back and stop that original gate from opening, then the Upside Down never invades Hawkins, Vecna never gets his foothold in reality, the Mind Flayer never possesses Will, and none of the deaths or trauma ever occur. The world is saved completely and permanently. But here's the devastating catch. Erasing that moment erases everything that came after it, which means years of shared history, character growth, and relationships would just disappear. Joyce and Hopper's relationship never happens because Hopper never has to help her search for Will, and they never bond through that trauma. Nancy and Jonathan's connection is gone because they never teamed up to fight the Demogorgon. And Nancy probably stays with Steve or moves on to someone else entirely. Steve never becomes the beloved babysitter and protector because he never had to prove himself by fighting monsters alongside the kids. Dustin and Steve's friendship doesn't exist, and Max never comes to Hawkins, or if she does, she's just another new kid and not part of the group. The emotional weight of this ending is that 11, or whoever goes back, has to knowingly sacrifice all these beautiful relationships and personal growth to save lives and prevent suffering. The series would end with the timeline reset, everyone alive and safe but living completely different lives with no memory of the bonds they formed. And only 11, if she retains her memories, would know what they all lost and what they meant to each other in another timeline, and that's the bittersweet tragedy of saving the world by erasing the best parts of their lives. Lasting, we have one of the darkest twists the show could pull, and this one brings back all the ambiguity and horror of the Hawkins lab days. The idea is that when 11 was in the lab, she accidentally created the Upside Down and trapped Henry Creel /1 there, which we kind of already know, but here's where it gets twisted and devastating. The final fight reveals that the 11 we've been following since season 1, the one who made friends and fell in love with Mike and saved Hawkins over and over again, is not the original 11. She's a clone or psychic projection created by Dr. Brenner in a desperate attempt to seal the rift after the first real 11 was lost or died in the initial 1983 incident when she opened the gate. Brenner never told anyone because he needed a weapon to fix what the original Elle broke, and he built this version of her from fragments of memory and psychic energy to finish what the first one started. The current 11 successfully defeats Vecna in the final battle, but in doing so her true artificial nature gets exposed because destroying Vecna destabilizes the psychic construct that's been holding her together. She starts fading away right in front of everyone, and there's nothing they can do to stop it because she was never truly solid or real in the way they thought. Mike is holding her as she disappears, and the group is left standing there in shock, wondering if their heroic friend was ever truly real, or if every laugh, every tear, every moment they shared with her was just an echo of someone who died years ago. The series ends with the Upside Down destroyed and Hawkins saved, but the emotional cost is that they realize the person who saved them all never actually existed, and they're left mourning someone who was both everything to them and nothing at all, and that ambiguity of whether her love and sacrifice were real even if she wasn't is what makes this ending so haunting. Which ending do you think could actually happen? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.